What's going on, everyone? Thrift, Barringer, Richard Holdridge. It's another edition of Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show, and we got a good one for you this evening. We had a great time this past weekend, but I got to bring in my partner, the guy that does the show with me and is also a play-by-play guy for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live team, and he's my lead color analyst. He's the A team, if you will. But Richard, how are you?
Thrift, I'm doing great. I'm sorry that I missed high school game day. I know that it was incredible. Rick Beach did a great job filling in for me. I did have a work obligation. I was able to watch it, but I had such a fun weekend calling high school football. First Carver on Thursday and then Calvary on Friday. It's been a great weekend of high school football, and the season's almost over.
It's unreal that we are already about to be in week 11, Richard.
I can't believe
it's crazy that August the 18th was over 2 months ago, and we were just now doing our first game day live from the Swamp, number 1 Glenwood, number 1 Pacelli. And guess what? Neither one of those two things have changed. Pacelli's still number 1 in the GIAA. Glenwood is still number 1 in the AISA. So all started well, is probably going to end well for both of those teams, and I expect them to be in their respective state championship games here as the season it is starting to come to an end. But as you talked about, I had an amazing time with Rick Beach. Thank you to Mindy Johnson. Thank you to KB, who is Kathy Bradley. She's amazing, and I think it's awesome what she does. And I know Rick Beach talks about, she's the VP of Operations. They call her KB, and I think I said her name wrong. I think it's actually Krista Bradley, and that she's actually Mindy Johnson's sister. And I was trying to pull up the appreciation post, but I had a lot of fun doing the game day from there. They've always shown us a lot of love. Christy Bradley. I could not get it right. So, KB, you can hold me to it if you watch this video. You can get on to me next time you see me. But she is the VP of Operations. She was great in helping us set up. Mindy Johnson. Coach Sam Harrison. She's the softball coach for the Harris County Tigers. She was also on the show, and she's got a big Elite 8 coming up. Her and Northside are there. Also, Columbus High. We got several softball teams vying for state championships around this area, and we're going to be playing at South Commons this week, so make sure you go out and support. But all in all, was our most watched high school game day. So thank you again to everyone that made that possible. We didn't have a guest picker. It was just me and Rick Beach. And then let's go into the actual games. We'll stay in Harris County first. Harris County just has been a juggernaut since the second week of the season. You were there for that, Richard. The game-winning kick against Russell County. And ever since that moment, Harris County's dominated every team that's been in front of them. They're doing it with elite defense. I think they're a top 5 defense in 5A. They're doing it with a stout running game led by Matei Yeoman, Miguel Sevilla, Q Walker. Walker was the guy that got a lot of touches there in the first half. In the second half, though, Matei Yeoman, I said it on the broadcast. If any of y'all can remember 2012 when Alabama and Georgia played in the SEC championship game, Georgia went up by 10. It was late in the third quarter. And the next 2 drives, Eddie Lacy had probably over 100 yards in those 2 drives. And every time he touched the ball, he was getting 10 to 15 yards per carry, just gashing them on first down, consecutive first down runs. He was getting 15, 20 yards. That's what Yeoman started doing late in the third quarter. Harris County led 21-0. Ty Durham got a pick 6 to make it 14-0. It looked like it was going to be a blowout the way it was going. Northgate started coming into themselves. They have an excellent defense. They also like running the football. These are 2 very similar teams in the style of play and the way they go about it. And they got it to 21-13. And Harris County had 3 straight possessions in which they turned the ball over and had 2 terrible punts in which Northgate started in 3 straight possessions inside Harris County territory. And that Harris County defense only gave up 2 field goals. It was 21-7 at halftime. They got to 21-13. Northgate got it back again after a big stop. 3 straight plays for law. They had lost yardage on the plays, Richard. And guess what? That Harris County defense stepped up again, turnover on downs, and that's when Yeoman just took over the game. And 34-13 was the final. Yeoman had over 150 yards rushing, and majority of them came in the second half. They have been, I would say this now, without Teo Todd, Troup County, Harris County play, I'm taking Harris County. And even if Teo Todd did play, that's a toss-up. This is a totally different team than what it was at the beginning of the season. They didn't know who they were. They didn't know what their identity was. No. Since that moment, they have figured it out. They have won now 7 straight games. They're undefeated in region play. They're in the driver's seat. And I think they have Drew on the road next week. And Drew, who lost to Northside, has not won a region game since they got into this region in 5A, in Region 3. Then they play McIntosh senior night at home. If Northside beats McIntosh next week, Harris County is going to, and they beat Drew, they were already clinched the region, no matter what happens that last weekend. But I know Coach Watson, they want to finish on a 9-game winning streak, be 9-1, heading into the playoffs, maybe getting 2, who knows, 3 home playoff games. This is the best Tigers team we've seen since their Elite 8 performance in 2012. By the way, they from 12 to 14, they won 3 straight region championships. This is the best team they've had since then. Very, very proud of what I'm seeing from those Tigers. And I said at the beginning of the season, Richard, I know I've talked a lot right here, but I was thrilled to see from a guy that grew up in Harris County, knows about the Tigers and how the tradition they've had in the past 20 years. D-Rock Brooks, that's his defense, and they are lights out. And they don't make mistakes. Levi Watson is a awesome game manager. He's a baller. I'm not going to disrespect him with game manager. He's a baller. He does whatever he needs for his team to win. And I think the Tigers, as I said at the beginning of the season, they're a sleeping giant. And if they ever woke up and had all the pieces in the right place, and I think they do, and they got enough skill on the outside, I think this Tigers team, they're a top 10 team. And heck, you know, they get luck of the draw, or who knows where the seeding's going to be and who they're going to be playing. This Tigers team could make a Final Four appearance, maybe even a state championship. The sky's the limit for a team that's 7-1.
I absolutely agree, Thrift. I mean, I can't believe the turnaround with this team. They were 2-8 last year. A lot of people didn't know what to expect. I know that we predicted they would be about a 500 team, maybe 6-4.
We said 6-4.
6-4. And beating Russell County, yeah, it was a great win. You know, they beat teams they're supposed to beat, like Shaw, Hardaway. Howard, we didn't really know about. But when they upset Sandy Creek, that really put the entire valley on notice. They're like, wow, Harris County just knocked off the defending state champions. I know that it was 3A and they're a 5A school. But Sandy Creek was supposed to be a top team. They were not supposed to lose to Harris County. And Harris County punched him in the mouth. This Northgate win, is the same thing happened, because a lot of people up in Noonan thought that this Northgate team was one of their best teams that they have had in years. And I know all the talk is that they were going to go down to Harris County and get the win. But once again, Harris County silences the critics. And I believe they do have a special Thursday night game where they travel to Riverdale to take on Drew. And then in 2 weeks, get ready. McIntosh is coming to town, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. This is the story in the Chattahoochee Valley as far as teams. I mean, they have had a storybook season for the Harris County Tigers.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it's going to continue, and we will be there for that game against McIntosh. So congratulations to Levi Watson, Tommy Watson, everyone at Harris County. They're excited. I mean, we had a great broadcast, by the way. Good job to Chris Gates. Great game day experience. Just a whole lot of fun. And it was beautiful weather, too, and a big win for the Harris County Tigers. So moving on from Harris County, let's do the game that you did, Richard, with Justin Brown. And Justin Brown and yourself have done 2 Harris Calvary games. And in both games, Calvary has won by a combined 100-0. Actually, did give up 1 touchdown. The last game they did. Isn't that correct? So maybe it's 100-7. Either way, it's been blowout losses.
It has been blowout losses. Both have been shutout losses.
Blowout wins. Losses for the other team.
That for the other team. Exactly. I did talk to the athletic director, Coach Steve Smith, after the game, and this win puts them 2-0 in the region.
Yep.
Skipstone Academy is 1-0. Remember, Skipstone made it to the Gaps championship last year against Cherokee Christian. They still play Rock Springs this Friday. Calvary's on a bye. Calvary will take on Skipstone Academy more than likely for the region championship in 2 weeks. But Coach Smith said that this win guarantees them a home playoff game in the first round of the Gaps.
Right.
If they beat Skipstone, they're going to get a first round bye in that week of the playoffs, November 10th.
Right.
And then they will have a home playoff game the week of November the 17th. So they have a very direct path to make a deep run in the Gaps playoffs. And I cannot say enough the job that head coach Emmanuel Brunson has done in his first year. Calvary has just an amazing team. Every time that me and Justin do a game, DeAndre Hurd scores 4 touchdowns. He did it again. And Luke Zivak just on point with his passes.
Right.
Luke Scoggins is just a gamer. And that Calvary defense, Rock Springs couldn't even move the ball on him. They had one big play to start the game. Actually, Rock Springs took the kickoff all the way down, the direct snap to the running back, McGinnis, and then there was a face mask penalty, and Rock Springs had it on the 30 of Calvary, and it looked like they were going to punch it in, and Calvary's defense smothered them, a big sack for a loss, forces them to go for it on 4th down. Rock Springs also did a fake punt in their own territory. I mean, they really shot themselves in the foot, but Calvary just put the clamps on Rock Springs, and they get the win. They are just riding on all cylinders, 5-4 overall and 2-0 in region play. But most importantly, 5-1 against Gaps teams. So you look at their overall record. I mean, yeah, they played some tough teams like Flint River, some teams in the GIAA, but Calvary is 5-1 in the Gaps, and I think they can make a deep run in the Gaps playoffs.
I think they can too, and I think it is going to be it's going to be pretty cool to see Calvary and first-year head coach Emmanuel Brunson maybe surprising some people and maybe even making it to a state championship game. Who knows? They do have a lot of talent. We will be calling their playoff games. Looking forward to that. And we're also going to be calling the playoff games for this next team, the Glenwood Gators, who on senior night took care of business. And I saw a post. They played a team in Morgan who had 17 players dressed out. This is a Morgan team that last year was pretty good, made it to the Final Four. Glenwood beat them to play in the state championship. Morgan has been a team in the past 10 years. They've had many teams that either won a region championship, made a deep run in the playoffs, and they are just not good this year. Glenn was up 34-0 in the first quarter. Dallas Crow, Carter Judah, Mason McCrane, Camden White, and the seniors, Crow, Wesley Graham, Lamont Burton, Camden White. These guys, they've been focal point for this Glenwood team over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Last year making it just close to a state championship. The favorite this year. Big win on them for senior night. They go to 9-0 on the season, and they're going to 1 win away from being undefeated. And I couldn't tell you the last time Glenwood was undefeated in football. It has to be 30, 40 years ago. It's been a long time. And to see them doing well, I love it. They got a big one next week against a top 5 Chambers team that is really good and almost upset Lee Scott. And that's their only loss this season. And they're playing at home. Richard, talk about that Glenwood game.
I'm just happy for Glenwood and their seniors getting the big win, 9-0. And they have been dominant from start to finish. Head coach Ryan Nelson's got a great coaching staff. They are focused. They are learning from the mistakes that they made last year, having 3 losses, and they turned around and they beat those teams. And they have just dominated all the other AISA teams. And, I think that Glenwood is really setting themselves up for a perfect scenario when they make the transition to the AHSAA next year. Who knows? Yeah. They might be in 3A, might be in 2A, but I think they could compete at a high level with just about any team in that level. And that's how special this Glenwood Gators team is. And you mentioned Dallas Crow, one of the best quarterbacks in the Chattahoochee Valley, dual threat quarterback. He can run the football. He's got over 20 touchdown passes. Carter Judah's only a sophomore, and Camden White is the ultimate Iron Man. He's one of their top receivers, and he is just a ball hawk in the secondary, getting big, giant interceptions when the game's on the line. And I think that this Glenwood team can make this not only make the state championship, but win the state championship. I think their biggest test is going to be Lee Scott, because Lee Scott is a similar team. Pelzer Reeves is like Dallas Crow. He likes to air the ball. And then you got to worry about Cooper Kupp. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jake White. He's like Cooper Kupp, 20 receptions, 200 yards. I mean, that's the stat line for Jake White for Lee Scott. So I expect these two teams to meet in the AISA state championship.
I do too, Richard, but that's down the line. I know Ryan Nelson will tell you to hold your horses. We got to beat Chambers next week.
Of course.
We'll go ahead and get into that right now. That's where we're going to be. It's Chambers Academy taking on Glenwood. It's our high school football showcase. It's Glenwood's final game of the regular season. It's Chambers Academy senior night. Chambers the favorite to win in 1A of the AISA. Glenwood the favorite to win in 3A. By the way, Chambers coach Jason Allen was Glenwood's coach from 2011, 2013, 2011. Made it to the Elite Eight. 2010 to 2012. 2010, he made it to the Elite Eight. 2011, he lost in the state championship barely to Bessemer. And in 2012, lost in the Final Four to Fort Dale. So Glenwood and Chambers facing off against each other. Should be a great battle. Can't wait. It's going to be in Alabama, which is, I would say, 45 minutes, 38 minutes, 35 minutes from Glenwood. They're really close, and can't wait to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have a high school game day show, as always, and we'll be picking the game. So looking forward to doing that one. Glenwood 9-0 takes on Chambers, and if you look at the rankings, Richard, they're ranked Chambers number 3 or 4. I mean, I got to pull up the rankings. But are you excited about doing this game?
Oh, absolutely. That place is going to be rocking up in Lafayette at Tolbert Allen Field. For the Chambers Academy Rebels, who, like you mentioned, they only lost 14-7 to Lee Scott Academy, an improved Chambers team. They're trying to get revenge from that loss last year when they went down to the Swamp and lost to Glenwood. Chambers Academy, they play in the AISA Class 2.
And I have it real quick, Richard. Glenwood's number 1. Lowndes Academy is number 2. Number 3, Lee Scott. And number 4 is Chambers. Now, this was last week's rankings. I don't expect Glenwood to go anymore. I think they'll still be number 1. Lee Scott won. And I got to see if Lowndes, but I think Lowndes won as well. So I think they're going to say it's going to be a top 4 matchup. Number 1 versus number 4. That's going to be a big matchup, and we're glad that we're going to be down there for it.
Truly is going to be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to calling the game with you, Thrift, and really getting out of the areas where we've been normally calling games all season and going up to Lafayette, where, we've been in Woodbury. When you get to these small towns, it seems like the entire town shuts down and they're at the football stadium and supporting the Chambers Academy team. And they do have a very passionate fan base, and it's a good private school. They got a broadcast team and they got good facilities, and I'm looking forward to being there at Tolbert Allen Field.
Yeah, I am too. I will be this Friday night. All right, let's start hitting on some of the other games in the area. We'll do them quickly. Shaw beat Hardaway 30-0. Huge win for Johnny Gardner. This solidifies them as they have made the playoffs, and they got a big one next week against Westover. If they beat Westover, they'll be the 3 seed. Correct, Richard?
Correct.
Bainbridge and Cairo will be 1 and 2. So, and then they play them at home. We will not be broadcasting that game as of now. Things may change, but we're putting our broadcast teams will be doing the Chambers Glenwood game. But a big one for Shaw. If they're able to win that, they'll get the 3 seed. They're 4-5. Johnny Gardner 1 win away from being 500. I really like what he's done. He has got this team motivated. I think he's getting the most out of what he's got. And give him a few more years, this Shaw team will be right back into winning region championships again. But a big one against Hardaway, 30-0, and they have now clinched a spot in the playoffs.
Big win for Coach Gardner. It was great just to see this Shaw Raiders team just respond against a region rival, and they're in the playoffs once again. And so they would like to get the 3 seed. I think Westover is a beatable team. playing in front of your fans. It's going to be senior night at
Right.
Kinnett Stadium. This will be the final game of the regular season. And it was great to see Nicholas Bates back. Last time we called a game, he left the game because of an injury. And who knows what could have happened in that Harris County game all the way back on September the 1st. If Nicholas Bates doesn't get hurt, it looked like it was about to be a back and forth game. Remember, it was 7-7, and then Nicholas Bates got hurt.
Exactly right. And that was a close game. But Harris County, just a totally different beast now. Russell County got a huge win against Park Crossing. Congratulations to Dylan Griggs, getting their first win of the season. They've come up just short, including against Harris County, and once they lost on a last-second field goal. But Russell County just taking care of business, finally getting a win. And I think this is going to, remember, this is a young team. They don't have many seniors. And Griggs is going to, next year, the year after, that's when I'm going to start having expectations for them. But good win against Park Crossing.
Absolutely. I'm proud of the staff that Coach Dylan Griggs has brought to Russell County, getting their first win. Of course, they've had a very tough season. They've had some heartbreaking losses, including that walk-off field goal against Harris County. They had a red zone interception against Stanhope Elmore. I mean, they were up by 8, against Sidney Lanier. I mean, they easily could be 4-5 right now.
Yeah.
But, luckily, they do get the win against a Park Crossings team that they did beat last year. They've actually beat Park Crossing 3 years in a row. This is not a very good team in Montgomery. I mean, they're mainly known for basketball, but yeah, the Park Crossing is really not known for football.
Yeah. So we'll move on now. Also, Kendrick lost to Southwest 36-8, and that was, and we did, when you throw it up there, but we talked about this on high school game day. Carver beat Monroe 28-17. Deontay Childs has 2 touchdowns rushing. Kobe Caslin had 2. Some mistakes that need to be rectified, because I honestly think Carver could have won this by 30 points or more. They were that much better than Monroe. But a big win for Coach Pierre Coffey. They've won 4 straight. They're 6-3, undefeated in region play, clinch a region championship. And for those who doubted them, I told you then, do not count out Carver. And I think they're going to finish 7-3 on the season. And these Carver Tigers have everything in front of them. They got height at the right time. They'll host 2 playoff games, and who knows, maybe even host a third. And then once you get past those 3 home playoff games, you may see how the seedings are played out. You may even get a 4th, or you're still in the Final 4 and 1 win away from making it to the state championship. Big win for Pierre Coffey. I like the Jacoby Hunter, the quarterback, that I thought he was efficient. He was able to hit big plays when needed to. Braylon Jakes, the leading receiver, had an awesome game. But Caslin, Childs, who is now over 1,000 yards rushing, the workhorse. But great job by the defensive and offensive lines. They're the one that set the tone, and they're the reason these Carver Tigers have won 4 straight and 6-3 now on the season.
Carver went to the quarterfinals last year as a number 2 seed. I cannot wait to see what they can do as a number 1 seed. Guaranteed to have 2 home playoff games. This Carver Tigers team is starting to click, and they're firing on all cylinders. And what a great weekend for the Carver Tigers. I mean, the former Carver Tiger, Jarvis Jones, got inducted into the Georgia High School Sports Hall of Fame. DJ Jones was there. Yep. It's just been an incredible week, senior night, and it was great just to see all those fans at Otis Spencer Stadium and wishing the Carver Tigers best of luck on senior night. It was just a great event.
Great event, and we appreciate them. Let's hit in some Friday games. We talked about the 2 we were at, but I want to really hit on this one. Spencer beating Northeast. Now, I kept checking it, and so I saw Spencer at halftime. They were down 28-7. I was like, well, this Northeast team is really good. They're probably going to win their region. And they beat Carver early in the year. Obviously, Northeast is a top 20 team, and they're really good program in Macon.
Yes, they're ranked number 2 in 2A. They were 6-1.
And then I saw fourth quarter when I got done with Harris County that Spencer had tied the game 28-28. And then in overtime, Spencer, Gary Gaither was phenomenal, leading them back. He was the main cause for their comeback victory. And then in overtime, Northeast scores on their first possession, missed the extra point. Spencer scores. They kick the extra point, and they win 35-34. The Spencer Green Waves, Joe Kegler, same thing I said about the Carver Tigers. It is not how you start. It is how you finish. They were 1-2 on the season. They lost to Westover, who I think if they play now, they beat Westover. And Westover's, by the way, they've lost 3 straight games since being 4-2 on the season. They're 4-5 now, ever since they lost to Northside a couple weeks ago. But man, Spencer, big win, and now they have won 5 straight games, and they're 6-2 on the season. Got a big one next week. They're going to blow out this week, I think, against Central. Who,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
by the way, Central, we both predicted them to lose to Jordan, and they almost did. But Spencer at home, they're going to take care of business on senior night. They'll be 7-2, and they take on Ace Charter, just like they did last year, to see if they're going to win a region championship for the 2nd consecutive year. Gary Gaither is showing why he's probably the best quarterback in this area, and that includes Caden Clay, Dallas Crow, Andrew Alford. I put Gary Gaither up there with all of them. And this comeback just solidifies that statement. We got a bunch of great quarterbacks. We got a bunch of great teams, which we'll talk about here in a moment, how great high school football is in this area. But Northeast loses to Spencer. Big win for the Greenways and Joseph Keckler.
How fitting is it that Spencer is going to take on Ace Charter in 2 weeks, possibly for a chance to win their 2nd straight region title?
That game is on the road.
It is on the road. It's going to be tough, but Spencer has shown that you beat Northeast on the road. You could go in Macon and beat Ace Charter. I mean, I know that this game was close last year.
Right.
Spencer won 16-6, and it was just historic. But I'm looking at the standings. I mean, they got the tiebreaker with Northeast. I mean, they're going to be guaranteed the number 2 seed. So they're going to have a home playoff game in the playoffs. I'm looking, this team, this region has got 8 teams. I mean, we all know that only 4 make the playoffs. So Spencer, Northeast, Ace Charter, and possibly Southwest. Kendrick, Central, and Jordan have all been eliminated. But I tell you, Spencer, they got a lot of confidence, and I think that this is going to be a tune-up game Thursday night at Otis Spencer Stadium against Central and Macon. I don't know what the score is going to be, but it's going to be over before halftime.
Yeah, but big win. Joseph Kegler, shout out to him. They were 1-2, and many people have started writing them off. They have got a winning streak just like Carver has, and they have pretty much solidified a chance to now be back-to-back region champs. And we'll see them and all the other great players around the area at the Sports Visions Awards Luncheon, December the 7th, Thursday. Hugh Freeze is going to be the guest speaker. Last year was Kirby Smart. The year before was Nick Saban. We've had Kirby Smart twice, Nick Saban 3 times, Gus Malzahn, Dabo Sweeney, Mark Rick, and now Hugh Freeze is one of the many great legendary speakers and great coaches that have come in this area to speak at our football awards luncheon. Me and DJ Jones, we talked about it on the Sports Visions radio show. By the way, you can listen tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m. on 921 Smooth R&B and the Sports Visions Facebook page and radio app. So make sure if you want to be a part of that, want to get a table, want to be a sponsor, just contact me or DJ. Huge event, December the 7th, the premier high school football, middle school football awards luncheon. Hugh Freeze will be speaking at it. All right, let's hit on a few more of the other games, Richard, because we still got some other stuff we're going to talk about. We'll hit on them real quickly. Smith Station, they get a big win against Jag. They win 16-8, and I say big win because they finally win their first game of the season. Jag is not a good program. Neither is Smith Station right now. They are rebuilding, but they win 16-8. Lee Scott beats Fort Dale 42-10. Even if you don't have a graphic for that, don't worry about it, Richard. They win that one 42-10. Valley also wins 41-40 over Elmore County. And Northside beats Drew 35-12. Northside now is 4-4 on the season. Correct, Richard?
They are 5-4.
5-4, excuse me.
And we need to talk about this game. They play Mac.
They get a bye. I forgot the only teams that are playing November the 3rd, Richard, is Kendrick and Spencer. Kendrick and
exactly
play that Friday, and then Spencer play Carver. Their last game's next week. So is Northside. So Northside 5-4. They go on the road to face McIntosh. They beat McIntosh. They will have secured the 3rd seed in the region.
That is going to be huge for the Northside Patriots.
Real quick, the Northside Drew graphic, Richard.
Yeah, Northside is. I mean, that's the game that they are going to be facing. Yeah, Northside, big win over Drew. I think that Kingston Rivers. I talked to his dad, Jonathan Rivers. He was calling the Carver game against Monroe for
Yeah.
95-7. He was calling that game because he wanted to see his son, and he was able to see him on Friday at Kinnett Stadium. And just they had a pick six in the game. Kingston Rivers, Caden Clay, they all played phenomenal. Northside is back in the playoffs for the second straight year. And congratulations to the Northside Patriots and Coach Orpeza and Coach Ingram, the athletic director. And then that fan base, they have such passionate fans. I mean, this is really a team that has like the student section, and they are well represented at Kinnett Stadium. And it's going to be a big, tough game on the road and against against McIntosh. They're 5-4. McIntosh is 6-2.
We will preview that game on Tuesday when we do our preview show then. But you're right, Richard. Big win for Northside. Great job by Caden Clay. Great job by Coach Orpeza. He said this at Media Days. Sustaining success is something they want to continue to do, and I think they're doing that. They're 5-4, and I think they have a chance. They almost upsetted Northgate last week at Northgate. I think they got a really good chance of beating McIntosh. And if they do that, they'll finish 6-4, and I think that's a really good season. And by the way, Caden Clay and Kingston Rivers, they both come back next year. So how about that? They'll be looking like the favorites in 5A. I don't know if you got a graphic for this, Richard, but I just want to hit on this game real quickly, and that is the Jordan Red Jackets, who came up just short against Central Macon. They lost 34-14. Jordan has had to overcome a lot of stuff this year. They've had to overcome a lot of stuff as a program, but Coach Cadell Jenkins, excellent job by him, Richard, keeping this game close. It was 16-14 for a majority of the game, and they were only down by 2. They had a chance to win. In the fourth quarter, they just don't got a lot of depth. They got worn out, and Central ended up winning by 20 points, but Jordan just short, and I think that Kendrick game coming up November 3rd, I hope Jordan is be able to keep it close and maybe win that game. But great performance by them, keeping it within striking distance for a long majority of the game against Central Macon.
Thrift, I do want to talk briefly about the Jordan Red Jackets because of the things that this school has gone through in the past month. I mean, this was very important that they play this game. What people don't realize that they actually forfeited a game a couple of weeks ago. There was a schedule mishap. They thought they were playing on a Thursday. They were playing on a Friday instead. And the fact that it was on a Saturday, this game was moved because they no longer play games at Memorial. It was moved to a Saturday at noon. And, I know a lot of people were not at Otis Spencer Stadium, which this game was being played down there. I was checking the score on my phone, and I looked down. They're trailing Central 16-14, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Jordan's got a shot. Jordan's got a shot to win their first game in 3 years.
Unreal.
And how awesome would that story be? And really, Derek Armitage has stepped in for Davin James. I mean, they've been the two quarterbacks all season, and Derek Armitage threw just an incredible touchdown pass. And Jordan, they scored the 2 touchdowns. I know that Central pulled away, but I was just happy for the Jordan Red Jackets and Coach Cadell Jenkins and their program. And really, it's not about the wins and losses. This team got out there and played a football game on a Saturday afternoon when there probably wasn't a whole lot of fans out there. And that just tells you their character. And also a big shout out to Jack Patterson from WRBL, because he was out there getting highlights. And I watched the highlights on the News Watch Saturday night.
So, I did too. And it's awesome, Richard, to see what Jordan has been able to do this year with the limited resources they have. And that, again, I'm telling you, that Kendrick game, that's going to come down to the wire. And I think that is going to be a really good game. And I'm hoping.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say I'm cheering for Jordan because I appreciate Coach Dye and the Kendrick Cherokees, but I think that's a game that could definitely come down the wire. By the way, if Kendrick does win that game, they will improve from 1-9 last year to being 3-7 this year. That's a 2-game improvement. If they continue on next year, if they go 2 games, they'll be 500, and that could be in the playoffs. So we'll see as we hope both these two teams. And talking about reclassification, I wish they would put Jordan in 1A. I think they'd be more competitive in 1A, but That's neither here nor there. Let's move on from that, Richard. And I want to talk a little bit about high school football as a whole, and then we're going to touch on some college football and the Falcons, and we're going to get out of here. First things first. In this area, I want everyone to listen to this. Glenwood is ranked number 1 in the AISA, and they're looking to win another state championship, or their first state championship since 30 years ago, but they're the favorite to win. Pacelli is ranked number 1 in the GIAA. They're favored to win the 4A state championship in the GIAA. Calvary is a team that's making the playoffs and will host a playoff game. They have a chance to make a deep run. They're not the favorite, but they're one of the top 6 or 7 teams that could win it all this year in GAPS 3A. Harris County is pretty much in the driver's seat of winning their first region championship since 2014, and they are in 5A now. That was when they were in 4A. So they're about to win their first 5A region championship. They're 7-1. They're looking to go 9-1 on the season, and you have to put them up there with a few other teams. They're going to be a top 6 or 7 team to win a state championship. Northside, they look like if they win next week, they'll host a playoff game. They're a really good football program. Shaw, maybe going to be 500 at the end of the year. And I think that's a win for Johnny Gardner. We said 500, 6-4, 4-6 on the season. They're a good program. We all know about Central. They just took Auburn to the woodshed and obliterated them. They were up 27-3 at halftime. They ended up winning 41-20. No one is on their level, and that includes the 4-time reigning state champions in Thompson. And by the way, you put that graphic up, Richard, because I don't think we hit on that game. That's the last one I wanted to hit on. Central and Auburn. Auburn, who we put our rankings out, and we had Central number 1, Glenwood number 2, Pacelli 3, 4 Harris County, 5 Carver, 6 Spencer, 7 Lee Scott, 8 Auburn, 9 was the Northside Patriots, and number 10 was Flint River and Chambers Academy. When we did our top 10 rankings, I've seen a lot of people share this and had a lot of comments about it when we were talking about our top 10 rankings. No way on God's green earth did I think, or did I ever say, neither did Richard, that Auburn wouldn't beat Glenwood or Pacelli on a neutral field, or heck, even at their stadiums, Pacelli or Glenwood. I think Auburn would be a huge favorite. They're a 7A public school, but that's not how we did our ratings poll. Not rankings, ratings. Okay, we base this off of your talent, your chance to win in your league, and dominance. Well, Glenwood's the favorite to win it in their league. Pacelli is the favorite to win it in their league. By the way, they're 2 really talented teams, and they've dominated every team they have faced in their respected leagues. That is why they're in the top 3. Central, same thing. They're doing it at the highest fashion in 7A of Alabama, dominating everyone. Andrew Alford has been sensational. Cam Coleman showing why he's the best player in Alabama. And I say that because anybody that thinks that we rank the teams based off head-to-head or what we think would happen they face, that's not how we did our poll. And that's why we had Carver 5, because we think in 3A there's still a 6 top 10 team to win a state championship. Spencer, you just saw beat Northeast Macon, who was a top 10 team. That puts them in that category now. They're 6-2 on the season. Northside, and we only rank the teams that we cover, Richard, that are in our area. Okay, so we didn't add Sly County, Macon County. We know there are teams in Atlanta and outside. We ranked it off of the Tri-City area, Auburn, Harris County, teams that we have covered, teams that we have called. And that's why that is our top 10 rankings. Why Central 1, Glenwood 2, Pacelli 3, Harris County 4, Carver 5, Spencer 6, Lee Scott 7, Auburn 8, 9, Northside 10 is the tie between Flint River and Chambers. I just wanted to throw that out there, Richard, real quickly, because I was trying to make a point that we have a lot of great teams. This is the best, I think, high school football has been in this area. In one season, to have this many teams winning region championships and having this many teams pretty much the prohibited favorite to win a state championship, I don't remember it being this good in this area in a long time. But you can answer that question while also talking about Central and Auburn, who just went up to Duckworth Stadium and pretty much told everyone that the state championship is running through Somerville Road in Phoenix City, Alabama.
Truly a dominant win by the Central Red Devils. And you're right, Thrift. I mean, I've been in Columbus since 2015. There hasn't been a time where this many teams in the Tri-City area has been winning at this high of a level that could compete for a state championship. And to throw in a team like Flint River, big shout out to the public address announcer Joe Howard, who commented on and is watching our show. They are 8-0. They are traveling to Monticello, Florida to take on Ocelia Christian, who's also 8-0. And I think that Flint River can win a state championship.
And honestly, can I say this real quick, Richard? Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
If we do off our poll, Flint River, talent-wise, yeah, they're not even close to a lot of the teams that I put up there, like the Glenwood. I think Glenwood would be close. I think Pacelli and Flint River, I think those games would be close. But I think Glenwood and Pacelli are more talented teams as of now. And, of course, all the public schools that are ahead of them, because Flint River is a 1A private school in the GIAA in Woodbury. But if you go off of chance to win state in their league, yeah, they're the favorite in 1A to win it all in the GIAA. And then dominance, look at their schedule and look at the teams they have played and what they have done to them. They are winning by an average of 30 points a game. Those Wildcats, shout out to Joe Howard, touchdown Wildcats. You'll hear that. If you go to a game at Flint River, you'll be hearing that all night long. Joe Howard, the PA announcer, thank you so much. Honestly, we could have them up even higher. And when we do this week's rankings, we may do that when we come out again on Tuesday. But we base our ratings off of 3 different options, not head-to-head. So that is why they are the way they are. But so much talent around this area. I can't wait. We may even get a Flint River playoff game in. We may get some Harris County, Carver, Spencer's hosting a playoff game. Central, obviously. You got Glenwood. You got Pacelli, Brookstone. By the way, we didn't put up their graphic. They won against Westfield this past week, Richard, and dominated them. They're now 4-4 in the season, and they got 2 more games. Both of them are at home. Brookstone will be 6-4. Brookstone will be a top 6 seed, and they'll probably have to face Pacelli again, probably in the Final Four. Brookstone, they beat Stratford on the road a few weeks ago, and Stratford was supposedly be the number 1 team in the state until they lost to Pacelli and Brookstone back-to-back weeks. That's why Brookstone, a lot of their losses are teams out of the GIAA. I like this team a lot, and they had a big win this past week. Good job by Coach Gillespie. They've had a tough schedule. They had to overcome a lot, but they're another team that could host a playoff game and make it a deep run in the playoffs. I like this Brookstone team a lot, Richard.
I can't wait for the playoffs. Brookstone could be faced up with Pacelli once again. I mean, here we go again. I mean, you thought that semifinal game last year was incredible with Cam Ellis putting on the Superman cape on a 4th and forever, and I just really breaking the hearts of Brookstone fans.
Yeah.
But I know Pacelli fans are just happy they got the Pacelli jug back. But these 2 teams, they know what's the goal here. Pacelli is defending GIAA champions, and Brookstone wants to have something to say about it. And I think that Brookstone, like you mentioned, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. If Brookstone finishes the season strong, they still got some pretty good games coming up. Max Strong Stadium, they're taking on Strong Rock Christian, a team that Pacelli beat. They're taking them on in Max Strong Stadium, and Brookstone is looking, playing Heritage. I mean, they still got some tough games ahead of them, but I think that Brookstone's going to win out, and who knows where they're going to be seeded in the GIAA playoffs.
Yeah, and if you look, the GIAA doesn't start their playoffs to the 17th, actually the 10th. The teams like Flint River and Pacelli, they're going to have buys, so they won't play to the 17th. Glenwood State Championship game, if they win the 10th, which I think they will, they'll play the 16th on a Thursday. So AISA will already be done. GIAA will just basically be getting started. Then we have the GHSA. By the way, Curtis Crowell asked, and I didn't get that. I hope he's still watching. If he's not, we are doing basketball kickoff interviews this year. We will be going around to the different basketball coaches. I think that is a great question. We were able to do basically, Curtis, we're going to be doing a media day, not next week, but the week after, and we are going to start promoting it now. I got to put that out there. We're going to do a high school media day for basketball around the area held at Pacelli, the Echo Courier Latino Basketball Media Day 2023-2024, found on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Me, you, Jonathan Hoppy, Patterson, Reese, Redmond. We're going to have all the media guys there, and we're going to be asking all the questions to all the teams around the area. That includes the 8 Muskogee County schools, all the private schools, Central, Smith Station, Russell County. We're going to be touching on everyone that you can think of around this area. It's going to be a lot of fun. November the 5th, that is on a Sunday, and it lasts about 4 or 5 hours getting all these teams in, boys and girls. And then we're going to try to, throughout the season, maybe touch on interviewing some of these. But with the media day, we probably won't do individual interviews as much because we have the luxury of having all y'all at the same time for the same interview on November the 5th. So cannot wait for that. I'll be sharing that as soon as tomorrow to promote that for everybody. And I would like to see all the teams there. By the way, Gardner versus Corey Joyner. They're going to be going against each other, Westover and Shaw, this upcoming week. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. But like I said, great time to be alive for high school football around the area. We'll be dropping our rankings on Tuesday. We'll be doing a preview show, and we're going to be doing our NBA preview show. We're going to be having our MVP picks, our preseason top seeds, what we think about the Atlanta Hawks, who do we think the NBA champs are going to be, maybe even do a first all-NBA team that we can have, our preseason first all-NBA team. Mike Conti, one of the announcers for the Atlanta Hawks, with Steve Holman. We'll have him on later on in the season, but right now we're going to have Mike Conti on. We'll talk all things Hawks. There's not a better guy that knows more about the NBA other than Steve Holman than Mike Conti, so cannot wait to have him on Tuesday. All right, let's hit these real quickly, Richard, the last 10, 15 minutes of the show. The Auburn Tigers, I want to start with them. Now, you need more than a year, and you dang sure need more than 6-7 games before you can decide if a coach is going to be worthy or not. But what we are seeing on the Plains offensively, it is about as atrocious as it can get. I don't understand the 2-quarterback system. I don't understand why you just don't either stay with Astrid, in my opinion, and then surround your offensive game plan around his strengths and try to win football games. And I think his strength is up-tempo, trying to slow the game down because you believe your defense doesn't have the depth it needs to win games that way. Well, you're setting your offense up for failure, who's then turning the ball over, and then you're losing because as good as you are, as much as you're trying to, help your defense out, they're still giving up, though, with 30 points a game. They gave up 48 to LSU. They gave up 28 to Ole Miss. They get worn down. So you're going to have to outscore teams. Trying to do this slow tempo, win 24-20, it's not going to work. It worked against Cal. Cal's not a good team. I thought they could have won against Ole Miss if it had been a different game plan. I'm tired of hearing that they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of depth. Obviously, this is not going to be the finished product for Hugh Freeze, but we got to change something up offensively. And the quarterback position, Hugh Freeze saying he doesn't know what to do as a head coach is not securing at all. And I don't know what to think of this Auburn team. They got Mississippi State at home. That's a winnable game. Then they got Vanderbilt, Arkansas on the road, then New Mexico State. Those all are winnable games. Auburn could be 7-4 heading in the Iron Bowl, and they lose the Iron Bowl, go 7-5. I think that's a win this year, especially how it has been these last 4 weeks. I thought they could have beat Ole Miss, Richard. And it's tough times for the Auburn Tigers. It's tough times because you see guys like Quishon Junkins, who is a running back for the Ole Miss Rebels, maybe the best running back in the SEC. He went to Pike Road, which is about an hour from Auburn. And Brian Harsin said he wasn't good enough to play for the Auburn Tigers. But with that being said, it can't be all on Harsin on why Hugh Freeze is not taking advantage of what he does have. And they're 3-4 now. They're against teams, LSU, obviously a really good team, Ole Miss, Georgia, and A&M. All those are more talented teams. All those are really good teams. But I think they could have had, offensively, I feel like more people would not be as, and the boos would not come as ferociously as they have, Richard, if the Auburn Tigers were losing games 42-35 or 35-28, like they did with Georgia, there were not a lot of boos. They scored 27 points against the Dogs. I would say there's no good losses, but that's something you can hang your hat on. The other three, Ole Miss, LSU, and A&M, no. And so Auburn, hopefully, in these next 4 weeks, can get at least 3 wins to go to bowl eligible, but even if that is up in the air.
This game was 14-14 at the half. And I looked at the box score in the second half. It was absolutely atrocious. Their first 5 possessions in the second half, 4 punts and an interception. I'm not counting the 6th possession where they scored a touchdown. That was a garbage touchdown because Ole Miss was already up 28-14. Where's the halftime adjustments? You're tied with Ole Miss 14-14 going into the half, and they couldn't move the football. I'm not a fan of the 2 quarterback system either. I mean, come on, let's be real. Peyton Thorne's not the guy. He was a good quarterback in Michigan State. He does not fit Hugh Freeze's system. Auburn will be fine. You get some players in. We're already seeing recruits flip to Auburn. They got to get the quarterback right. But the blame goes on Brian Harsin. I mean, he ran Bo Nix out of town.
Yeah.
But Auburn is going to be fine.
I think they're going to be fine, too. I'm not saying to fire Hugh Freeze, but some questionable things are happening coaching-wise. And I thought highly of Philip Montgomery, and I didn't think something like this is going to happen. But maybe there is that big of a talent disparity right now with the Auburn Tigers, which is definitely on Harsin. But Hugh Freeze, hopefully he can rectify it and at least get the bowl eligible for these Auburn Tigers. Alabama looking like they were going to get beat by Tennessee, down 20-7 at halftime. Joe Milton was putting on a show, and then Alabama, this is their mantra this season. They're a second-half team, just like they did against A&M, and just like they did this past week against the Tennessee Volunteers, and either of the other teams they have faced off against, Richard, they have been able to overcome deficits in the first half. They've been able to overcome mistakes offensively in the first half, and they scored 27 unanswered points in the second half to win 34-20. That defense was lights out. And I said it, if they beat A&M, Josh Pate said it, a lot of people said if they beat A&M on the road, they're going to win out. And I think they're going to do that. They got to bye, and they play LSU in 2 weeks. That's going to be a big game. That's going to come down to the wire. Those are evenly matched teams. You never know when those 2 teams face off. But I think because it's at home, I think Alabama is going to go 11-1, and they're going to be facing the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC Championship. Another big win. Nick Saban knows what he's got in his team. He knows that this team is not quit. There's still a lot of talent. This is not the typical Alabama team that comes in and puts the fear of God in teams. But they had a huge win, and now they are looking like they're going to win out, and they're going to be right in the thick of things when it comes to the playoff.
Thrift, I watched this game from start to finish. It looked like Tennessee was going to dominate this game. Alabama's defense, they forced Tennessee to kick 2 field goals. It was 13-0. It should have been 21-0. When Tennessee scored that touchdown to make it 20-7 and it went to the halftime. By the way, we got to get a copy of the halftime speech by Nick Saban. It's probably the most inspiring words in the history of speeches because Alabama came out. We knew they were going to get the ball. When Jalen Milroe threw that 45-yard touchdown to Isaiah Bond, and then Bama pinned them back all the way to the 3-yard line, and that home crowd and the momentum flipped in that game when it was 20-14. Tennessee punted the football away when it was 20-7, and Tennessee just stopped doing what, Squirrel White was like Joe Milton's favorite target. He had an incredible catch to make it 7-0, but there's a guy on defense that, Will Anderson's no longer on this team. I know all the hype is on Dallas Turner. Chris Braswell made the play of the year with the strip sack on Joe Milton, and that was the ball game because Alabama was up 27-20. If Tennessee just went back to their 2-minute offense, I think they could have tied it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought that Tennessee did as well as they could do against Alabama, but you're right. I think this Alabama team is going to run the table, play Georgia in the SEC championship. Georgia may or may not have Brock Bowers. If Alabama wins, they're going to get into the college football playoff. I mean, I could see them being a favorite against Florida State. I could see them being a favorite against Ohio State.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Michigan is the team to beat this year. I mean, Michigan, the way they just dismantled Michigan State in East Lansing, their rival, they're playing on a different level. And I really thought they were going to jump Georgia in the AP poll.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to go that far because Ohio State took care of business, and they're showing you they can win you by scoring points. Marvin Harrison had a great game against Penn State.
Remember, his nickname, Gus Johnson calls him Maserati Marvin.
And Gus Johnson's showing why he's the best in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Him and Chris Fowler. But I wouldn't put Michigan there. I definitely put Ohio State. I think Florida State's a really good program. Florida State got a big win this past weekend, dominating Duke. It was close until the fourth quarter, and then dominated the fourth quarter. They ended up winning 38-20. By the way, Rick Beach was there. He was at the game for Harsin, was able to score points, and that's a good point, as Rick Beach just said. By the way, shout out to him. He was at the Auburn-Ole Miss game. He saw what was happening on the field, and thank you so much, Rick, for being a part of the broadcast, and we'll be continuing to doing our thing. 2 weeks from now when we take on McIntosh, Richard will be at Smith Station, Auburn. And we know that Pacelli and Harris County, they face off in flag football on Tuesday.
Nice.
Pacelli's ranked top 5 in the nation, the number 1 team in the state, and the Harris County Tigers, the number 1 team in the state. They're top 20 nationally. We're going to see if we can make it. Richard, we can't make promises. A lot happening on Tuesday. But I know Rick, he said he's going to be there. I'm going to see what time the game is, and hopefully maybe we can go up there and Facebook Live the Pacelli Vikings taking on the Harris County Tigers. If you've never seen a flag football game, it is an experience unlike any other, and it's gained a lot of traction. By the way, shout out to Coach Emmanuel Brunson for tuning in. Calvary plays for Region Championship. They got a bye this week, and they play again November the 3rd for the Region Championship on the road. It's going to be a tough one, but if they were able to win that game, they will be region champions. And you can go to Kudzu Sports AU for Auburn stuff. Definitely going to give you a shout out, Rick. So if you want to see all things Auburn, see that. Hope next week I'll be there on the Plains covering for Sports Visions as they take on Mississippi State at 3:30. Hopefully Auburn can get a big win and go to 500 and get a much-needed win in the SEC as they're 0-4 right now. Georgia had a bye this week. They play Florida. We can preview that one a little bit on Tuesday, Richard, when we're previewing a few of the other games that are happening this weekend. Auburn takes on Mississippi State. Alabama has a bye. They take on LSU in a few weeks. And then that you talked about in college football right now, USC, until Lincoln Riley says he wants to play defense, they're going to keep getting beat like this. They may go 8-4 this year. I'm looking at their schedule. They may go 8-4 with the Heisman Trophy winner. And this is what Oklahoma fans were talking about, why they never felt like, other than that first season in 2017 when they lost to Georgia, but their defense, again, was terrible. They do not have it. And Lincoln Riley is going to have to change up some things if he wants to be respected and have a legitimate chance to win a national title. Washington almost lost to Arizona State. They won 16-7, but they're showing that they can win by scoring a lot of points, or they can win by playing great defense. And Arizona State's a very underrated team. They've kept it close with a couple teams, and the Pac-12 is just showing why they're probably top to bottom, one of the best, most competitive conference in all of college football. Like I said, Ohio State beat Penn State. Notre Dame 6-2. They had a bye this week, but college football is about to get into the meat of the season, which is November, where this is where dreams go to die. And if most teams that have a dream of winning a national championship, winning a conference championship, it goes to die here. Miami beat Clemson. They came back. Only reason I mention this because Dabo Swinney's now lost 3 games this year. They're going to probably go 8-4 on the season. And Clemson is a shell of itself in what it was back in. Think about this. 2020, they had made the playoffs 6 consecutive years. 2 national championships, went to 4 of them. And then now these last 3 seasons, 10-3, 10-3. Excuse me, 11-3 because they won ACC championship last year, and then this year probably going to go 8-4. But Richard, before we move and end the show, I did real quick want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk about this, and then we're going to end it. And I'm really going to be ranting. Desmond Ridder, and I'm looking at the camera when I say this, and I'm not even blinking. Desmond Ridder is not the answer at quarterback. Arthur Smith, you can look yourself in the mirror, and I wish I had this type of job security in which you're hanging your hat on, and you're going to go down swinging with Desmond Ridder. You think this young man, I don't care if he's a guy that just lives in the film room and is a first one in, last one out type of guy. If he doesn't have it, he doesn't have it, and I'm not seeing it. This year alone, if Atlanta was not able to win this game, in which they dominated the game defensively, they had a really good game plan. I thought this was the best play calls Arthur Smith had all season long, and yet they had a win on a last-second field goal by Younghoe Koo. Now, I know Ridder hit Pitts for the big completion to get him in field goal range, but it's his fault they were in this position. 3 fumbles, including the one right at the goal line that he fumbles out of bounds in the end zone that is a touchback. If he scores right there, Richard, they go up by 10 and they win the game. Think about when they play Houston, same thing. If they score right there, they go up by 10, the game's over with. Last week, 3 interceptions, single-handedly cost the Falcons the game. Not the defense. Desmond Ridder single-handedly cost them the game. Jacksonville, 3 interceptions in the first half. Single-handedly cost them the game. This Falcons defense is legit. They're top 5. They got top 10 talent on the offensive line, receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. The talent is there. If Matt Ryan is quarterbacking this team, the Falcons are 5-1. Their only loss is to Detroit. That's it. And they may even beat Detroit. If they have anyone else at quarterback, and they may even meet Taylor Heineke. We don't know because he won't give him a chance. But there's no more. You look at the schedule that the Falcons have to play, Richard, and it's the easiest schedule, I think, in the NFL by far.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to let you go on your tangent too. But they beat the Buccaneers. This is one of their toughest games remaining on the season heading into this week. This game against the Bucs was one of their toughest games remaining. They have to face off at Tennessee next week. Tennessee's 2-4. 2-4 Minnesota the week after. 2-5 Arizona, but this is at Arizona. Then New Orleans, who's 3-4. At the Jets, Tampa Bay at home. At Carolina, who's 0-6. Indianapolis, who's 3-4 and doesn't have Anthony Richardson. He may not be coming back for the rest of the year. The Chicago Bears, they're going to probably have the coach that gets fired first before the season ends. And then at New Orleans. Did you hear how bad? There is not one team that has a winning record on that list. Maybe the Jets if they had Aaron Rodgers. I know Wilson's been formidable. I know they've had a couple good wins. They're 500. But that's their toughest game at New York. If you predict they're going to be favored in a lot of these games,
probably every one of them.
They should finish 13-4, 12-5 on the year. But I see them going 10-7, 11-6, and winning the division with that record because Desmond Ridder is going to cost them games like at Arizona, maybe next week against Tennessee. It's going to be Ridder that costs them games, no doubt about it. And if you're Arthur Smith, why? I'm hoping that you're right, that this is just his only first full year, second year in the National Football League, that he's got a lot of learning, and then in 3 or 4 years, he's going to be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm just not seeing it. To make this many turnovers, Matt Ryan didn't do it. I mean, I know, Peyton Manning had led the league in interceptions that first season, but you knew there was promise. I'm not seeing the promise in a second-round quarterback from Cincinnati and Desmond Ridder. I'm just not seeing it. And now when you got all the talent surrounding you, this is a year you should win. You went out and signed a lot of people in free agency. This is a year you're trying to win a division that is definitely yours. You're the favorite. You're the best team in the division. And you're going to let Desmond Ridder cost you? I'm ready to give up on him. I know everyone else in the Falcons fan base is too. He's not. We're going to have to go to bat with him every week. But, man, they should have won this game by 3 touchdowns if anyone else is playing the position.
You know, Thrift, I'm a pretty optimistic guy when I watch the Atlanta Falcons. I root for Desmond Ridder not to make the big mistake, and he did have a good game a couple of weeks ago, but he had 3 fumbles in this game. He had 3 interceptions against the Commanders. He is going to single-handedly cost the Falcons at least 3 games.
At least.
I was very impressed with Atlanta. You know, Tyler Algier had a great wheel route pattern. Kyle Pitts, with his gloves. You got Van Jefferson, who actually stepped up and he contributed along with Drake London. But the Falcons defense, I believe this is the best defense that the Falcons have had in a very long time.
If they had this defense back in 2016, they would have won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is better than
the 3 lead.
Not at all. This is a better defense than all those Dan Quinn defenses. Remember, 2017, Dan Quinn had a top 5 defense. This defense is better than the 2017 defense, or that defense back in 2009 with John Abraham. You had Lawyer Malloy, you had William Moore, you had Curtis Lofton. I mean, that defense, the Falcons, we should be happy. We should be celebrating. Right now, they're in first place in the NFC South.
But it's like it's
hard.
It is hard, and it's debilitating knowing that you are in first place and you look at that schedule. Richard, you're right. They should be favored in every game. That'd be 14-3 on the season. They have the roster to be able to be that good. And I know last year, the Vikings and some other teams that had weak schedules that ended up benefiting from it. The Falcons are that team this year. But with Desmond Ridder, and it's the NFL, you never know. They should have beat the Commanders. Washington is terrible. And you lose by 8 because of Desmond Ridder. Now, Jacksonville, obviously, they're 5-2. They're a completely different team. I understand losing to them, but anyone else playing quarterback, Falcons probably win that game. Detroit, obviously 5-2. They're a really good team. But the Commanders, give me a break. And then this past week, almost losing the Bucs. But great job by the defense. And Young Waku, the clutchest kicker, including Justin Tucker in the NFL. Big win for the Falcons. They are in first place. You keep your optimism high. But Ridder is just it's mind-boggling how long they're going to keep him, Richard.
And the Atlanta Falcons, you two did talk about, they do play the Tennessee Titans next week. Ryan Tannehill is terrible. I mean, so, maybe Ryan Tannehill will cost the Titans games, and, the Falcons will get, by the way, Richie Grant, a big pick in the red zone when Baker Mayfield was driving down. I think that sealed the game. And I know that on the other side, the Buccaneers said, well, we made a lot of mistakes. The Falcons made a lot of mistakes in this game too. That just tells you that this NFC South is wide open. In 2 weeks, they play the Vikings. I mean, I kind of wish that was a primetime game because, Kirk Cousins doesn't do well during primetime games. The Vikings actually got to play the 49ers on Monday night, so I'm kind of nervous about that one. And then, of course, they play the Cardinals, who don't even have Kyler Murray. Josh Dobbs, he's been okay. I talked to a Falcons fan today at work, and he said that that's the type of game that the Falcons would find a way to lose. They would go to Arizona and probably lose that game because James Conner would probably rush for 150 yards.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I'm hoping the Falcons, who knows, Ridder maybe starts becoming the quarterback that Arthur Smith obviously believes he's going to be by the end of the year, and then we'll all have to eat crow. But right now, it's mind-boggling what we're seeing from him. Well, thank you so much, Richard, and thank you everybody that's been tuning in and sharing the video. On Tuesday, we're going to drop our rankings. We're going to have our NBA preview show. We're going to preview also our high school preview show. We're also all that in one. So we're going to be previewing high school football games this upcoming week, previewing the NBA season, giving our picks, NBA picks, and then dropping our rankings. All that and more on Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show Tuesday. We may be doing the Pacelli-Harris County flag football game. That'll be a game time decision. Tomorrow night, we got the Glenwood Coaches Show, Sports Vision's radio show, 4 to 6 p.m., the Glenwood Coaches Show. That is also on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Richard, you'll be there for that with Coach Ryan Nelson.
Absolutely.
And then Chambers versus Glenwood on Friday night in Lafayette.
Can't wait.
Richard Holdridge, I'm Thrift Barringer saying thank you so much. Have a good rest of your Sunday night. And we will see you tomorrow for the Glenwood Football Show and Sports Visions on 92.1 Smooth R&B. Stay classy, everyone.